Happy to do this. Thanks for the invitation.
Oh, my pleasure.
It's really cool to you spare some time to talk with us.
Well, I think it's very nice that you guys invited me. I'm nothing special, I promise. Just ask my wife.
Oh.
Ask my kids. Right?
Yeah. Okay.
So happy to do it.
So how are you doing? Doing great?
I'm doing well. Absolutely. Just was texting with my son. He had some fall baseball tryouts. So would you believe here in the middle of summer? Well, I don't even know. When is the first day of summer? For us, it's different for you. But for us, like summer starts like mid-June. I don't even know if it's officially summer yet. Or maybe today's like the first day of summer. But anyway, for the fall, for autumn, my older son has baseball tryouts already for this club team that he plays for. So he literally just blew up my phone. He had a scrimmage today for this club, and he had a good game. But I told him, hey, it's baseball, right? Small sample size. You can go 0 for 3. Be a good teammate, effort, attitude, right? And know what you're doing. Like, he pitched 1 inning. I go, you have to make sure if there's a runner on base, work on your pickoff move, right? And so we go over all that stuff. I go, small sample size of 1 game, you go 0 for 3. You could strike out 3 times. Doesn't make you a bad player. That happens. That's the sport. You can't let it then impact you the rest of the game. So we talk about the mental side of sports a lot in my family.
Okay.
I think that's one of the positives of having a father that working sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does help, right? I mean, because I don't pretend to have all the answers, right? I mean, like if he asks me a question about his swing, I don't necessarily know, but I can call somebody that does know, right? So that's where it helps. Like he asked me last winter for some help on his curveball. I said, go to YouTube. Like, I don't know how to throw a good curveball, but let me get you in touch with somebody who does know how to throw a good curveball. So there's a pitcher for the Washington Nationals that I got to meet years ago when he was still in high school, Jake Irvin, who's having a really good year for Washington. He's in the majors, right? But he makes his offseason home here in Minneapolis. And so he was nice enough to give my son a lesson. So he taught him some tips on how to throw a good curveball. That's my answer. I don't have the answers, but I know who to go to give me the answers.
That's one lucky son.
Yeah. Very lucky son.
Yeah, he is lucky. I try to remind him, though, right? I've got a 10-year-old as well. So we constantly talk about, you're lucky. Yeah, you're fortunate, but it can change quick, and make sure you have the right attitude, right? And treat people with respect, right? Communicate with people. I don't want you buried in your phone, stuff like that, but just be a good person. Treat others as you want to be treated. We talk about that all the time.
I like you already, Darren.
Yeah, that's important, man.
It is.
So, first of all, I think I wish to thank you for being here, to take a few minutes for us. It's very important for our project here in Brazil. You know, just having such a special person here with us, and it's awesome, man. So thank you very much. Okay.
Well, you got it. I mean, I'm not special. I promise. I am not special, but happy to do it because I appreciate the passion you have. The fact that you are so far away in Brazil, okay, but you're so far away, yet you cover this team that, it's 5 minutes from where I'm standing, right? Their home stadium. Their practice facility more like 20-ish minutes, but from where I'm standing right now, it's 5-ish minutes down the highway. Right? Like sometimes I take that for granted. It's really cool that the Vikings have this worldwide reach. It's not just a Twin Cities team or a Midwest team. They have a reach, for example, here in Brazil. So I think that is really, really cool.
Yeah. You are so lucky. I'm jealous right now.
Yeah, me too.
It's a bunch of good guys too. That's what makes it cool. Like what I do, guys like Josh Metellus. I've gotten to know Josh pretty well. I don't know if they've ever made a nicer human being. He's just a good dude. I heard a story the other day. I think he put it maybe on his Instagram. He's driving through his neighborhood. There's some kids with a lemonade stand. I don't know exactly how much he tipped the kids, but I guarantee he gave them a pretty nice tip, right? Like that's Josh Metellus. And I don't even know if it was his Instagram story. It might have been somebody in the neighborhood because he does a lot of stuff that I don't think he wants the public to know about, right? Just out of the kindness of his heart. But I've been around him away from the facility a little bit. I'm telling you, like A+ guy. So that's what makes covering the Vikings really, really enjoyable. It's a locker room for the most part, trust me, I can tell you a couple stories, but like I can tell you stories going back years, right? Where it was a rocky locker room. Right now, I mean, I'm not suggesting they're holding hands singing Kumbaya, but these guys, like, there's a genuineness. They really, really enjoy each other. They really, really enjoy playing for head coach Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So
if you give it to us like in another country, we can just from interviews, stories like the one you just said, that they really love to be part of the team, the community, being with each other, and of course playing for Coach O'Connell.
That's it. I mean, it's Community Tuesdays, right? So Tuesday is technically the player's day off during a typical week. Now, there are a bunch of atypical weeks, as you guys know, right? We now have games on Thursdays and later in the season on Saturdays, and you've got a Monday night game. And so, you know, the schedule can get wonky at times, but, you know, the traditional schedule, game on Sunday, you go in on Monday for treatment, you review the Sunday game, players get Tuesday off. That's the one day off during the week. Now, they're not in there for 12 hours on Friday or 12 hours on Saturday. So they have some freedom Friday night, Saturday afternoon before they, you know, either fly to the city or report to the team hotel for a home game. But like Tuesday is their one like free day, the totality of the day, right? Where they don't have to do anything. But like you guys know this from social media, there are a number of players who devote their time, their free time, and they don't get a lot, but their free time on Tuesdays to giving back to the community. They understand the platform they have, the importance of giving back.
So I know your time is short, so
I've got a few minutes for you guys. I'm okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, then. Thanks.
Yeah.
We have some questions to ask, but first, if you allow me, could you start by introduce yourself, saying what you do, and tell us a little about your life for the Brazilian public?
You got it. So my name is Darren Wolfson, affectionately known as Doogie. So here in the United States, way back when, I'm dating myself because I'm now 44 years old. But when I started in this business at the flagship radio station for the Vikings, KFAN, back in the fall of 1996. So how many years ago was that? Let me try to do the math on this. So 28 years ago, right? It'll be 28 years, I guess, this September. I started at KFAN, the Vikings flagship radio station, and got my foot in the door. You know, did a lot of stuff behind the scenes, but learned about the business. Also did an internship at the local ABC affiliate here in the Twin Cities. That's where I currently work. So you think about making, you know, a solid impact and building relationships going back to 1996, 1997. Those relationships have carried into today. So I now work for the ABC TV affiliate here in Minneapolis and St. Paul. So Minneapolis, St. Paul is one of the top 15 media markets in the United States. We're not as big as New York or Chicago or Los Angeles, but it's a good market with a passionate fan base across the board. I mean, there are so many teams here in the Twin Cities. So doing what I do on TV, plus I now do some digital work for Score North, which is on YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast. But I cover all the teams in town. So there's a major university here, the University of Minnesota. They have a ton of teams, a ton of great athletes. In fact, one of their great divers, one of the great female athletes in University of Minnesota history just qualified the other day in Knoxville, Tennessee for the Paris Olympics. So she'll be back here in Minneapolis next week. I was just texting with her. I'll connect with her for an interview. She has a cool story to tell. So I do it all. So it's collegiate athletics, it's high school athletics, and it's the pro teams. Now, I will tell you guys, the Vikings, clear cut, it's not close. The Vikings are the most popular team here in our viewing area. So when I say our viewing area, it's Minneapolis, St. Paul, plus surrounding suburbs, plus if you drive about 2 hours north, an hour and a half south, an hour west, an hour and a half east, it's all encompassing. All those people get the TV station I work for. And it's not close. The Vikings are the number one team. So when the Vikings start training camp in late July, yes, admittedly, I spend a lot of time at the Vikings facility. I spend more time from late July until the end of the Viking season. We all hope it's February in the Super Bowl, but it might be early January. But from late July until January, I am spending most of my time, not all my time, but most of my time covering the Vikings. But I'm also doing some stuff with the Minnesota Timberwolves, the NBA team. Heck, the Minnesota Twins had a nice playoff run last year that went into mid-October. So I covered that. So I was a big part of that coverage. The Minnesota Wild is an NHL team here in town. Minnesota United, soccer, MLS, Minnesota Lynx, a women's professional basketball team. So there are so many teams. I'm leaving out some, but there are so many teams here in this great sports market. And so I try to have my fingerprints on all of them.
Vai fazer a pergunta aí, Henrique?
Ah, tá bom, eu faço. Well, just need to introduce myself first. My name is Henrique. I've been in the Minnesota Vikings podcast here in Brazil since 2020. So I'm going to my 5th season now, I guess.
Very cool.
Not as long as 26, 27 years, but I'll get there someday.
Man,
You will. I've got a few years on you, I guarantee.
Yeah,
So I've got age on my side, or depending on how you look at it, you've got years to catch up to me. You're blessed, and I'm not. I'm an old man now.
He said 1996. I born in 1996.
I know. Don't remind me how old I am.
No,
I now have a
Okay,
teenager.
so
I have a
I won't tell my
13-year-old.
age then. I won't tell my age then.
I know. It's nuts. Like I'm a year away from like all sorts of different medical procedures men need to undergo when they reach 45 years old, right? And you start thinking about your health, your long-term health, all that. You guys don't have to worry about crazy stuff like that.
Go on, Henrique.
So then, to start things up, let me ask you about this 2024 draft class. Do you think it's his best work? No, it was a kind of shaky 23 class, his first one. Then last year, not many picks, but he had some great value with Addison, with Blackmon, then Pace as an undrafted free agent. And if you could talk just a little bit about your opinion on this year's draft picks.
Yeah, so it's 3 draft classes for Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. I would agree that 22, a bit shaky, right? When we're talking about Lewis Cine, Andrew Booth Jr., I'm not even quite sure both guys make the opening roster. I think one will. I'm not sure both do. Now, I still think Brian Asamoah, the linebacker / safety from Oklahoma, he was hurt most of last year. I still think there's a player there. So that's a guy I would keep an eye on in August. Like I'm telling you, I can tell that he's uber motivated. I still think there's a pretty good player there. Caleb Evans, we're still wondering, is he a starter at cornerback? So I get it. The 22 draft class, pretty blah. 23 draft class. Jordan Addison, I'm telling you, maybe it's lost a little bit because of Justin Jefferson's brilliance. Jordan Addison has superstar written all over him. Kenny Pickett at the University of Pittsburgh, in large part, was a first-round draft pick because he got to throw to Jordan Addison. Caleb Williams, hey, stud, right? But his best numbers at USC were when he was throwing the ball to Jordan Addison. Then you see what Jordan Addison did his rookie year. The Vikings nailed that draft pick. Jordan Addison is a stud. Mekhi Blackmon is really good. I'm telling you, I think he is going to play a ton of snaps this year. Mekhi Blackmon, I think, has a chance to be a multi-year starter for the Vikings. So you look at those top 2 draft picks from 23, pretty darn good. Then you touched on Ivan Pace Jr. doesn't get drafted, but clearly they hit a home run. They beat out a couple teams, the Titans, the Jaguars, who also tried to sign him after the draft. The Vikings sold Ivan on coming here, not to Nashville, not to Jacksonville. The Vikings deserve credit for that. So that's a pretty good, right, base when you're thinking about the totality of the 23 rookie class. Now we're talking about the 24 rookie class. I don't think J.J. McCarthy is playing anytime soon. Maybe November, maybe December, maybe 2025. Dallas Turner, I think, is going to be a stud. I do. I still think to this day, gentlemen, they are shocked that he fell all the way to pick 17. They sincerely thought he was going pick 8 to the Atlanta Falcons.
Coach
They do all
reaction
these
was
mock drafts.
priceless.
They do all these scenarios, right? they spend days upon days trying to figure out what other teams will do. I'm not sure they spent much time on Dallas Turner getting all the way to the mid-teens. That kid, now don't watch his first pitch at the Twins game the other day. Baseball's not in his future, okay? But that kid is an incredible athlete. He was a heck of a basketball player in high school, and we saw what he did at the University of Alabama. I think Dallas Turner is going to have an immediate impact. So you start there, then you go off that, right? Like, does the offensive lineman from Oklahoma have a chance? Maybe eventually, right? There's some other guys. I think the edge rusher, they signed Murphy after the draft from UCLA. I think he has a chance, right? We talk about Ivan Pace Jr. a year ago, undrafted free agent. I think Murphy from UCLA, right? Just based on what I heard and saw, OTAs and minicamp, and they're not in full pads. So I don't want to overdo or overstate what I saw earlier this month as well, right? Because they're not in full pads. To me, it changes late July into August when they're in full pads. But I think Murphy has a chance, right? Maybe not quite the impact that Pace had last year, but I think Murphy has a chance to make the 53-man roster, perform on special teams, go from there. And so I think this 24 draft class plus the undrafted free agent class, I think it has a chance. But I'm just telling you, that 23 class, based on what we saw last year, that's pretty darn good. I'm telling you, Jordan Addison, I can't overstate this. Jordan Addison is a freaking stud. He is so good.
And what about the players we signing this offseason? Do you think with these players, the team come better than last year?
Well, we're talking about, what, a 7-win team last year? I think they're right in that ballpark this year. But I like the moves. Like Jonathan Grenard, once you knew you were losing Danielle Hunter, to sign Jonathan Grenard, really good signing. Yeah. I'll admit my bias. Blake Cashman, all he has to do is stay healthy. But Blake and I go back to when he was in high school at Eden Prairie here in the Twin Cities. So he grew up here in town, then played for the University of Minnesota. You know, then he played in the NFL previously for the Jets and the Texans. Got better. Like his best year was last year with the Houston Texans. Blake Cashman can make an impact. He just has to stay healthy. There is an injury history there. Then you think about Andrew Van Ginkel. Brian Flores knows him from Miami, knows how to use him. Now, he's battling back from an injury. He got hurt late in the season. We thought he would be back by minicamp, should be back by the end of July, training camp, but we haven't seen him. I didn't even see him run around OTAs and minicamp. He was working off to the side. So to be determined on Van Ginkel, but I'm just telling you, Brian Flores knows what the heck he is doing. He recommended Andrew Van Ginkel, so I will defer to Flores, defensive genius, that he knows what he's doing with Van Ginkel. Then who else are we talking about? I mean, those were the big ones. Who am I leaving out? I mean, I think a guy like Robert Tonyan, tight end, a couple of years ago, Aaron Rodgers loved throwing to him in Green Bay. He did not have a good year last year with the Chicago Bears. I talked to him a couple of weeks ago. He's uber motivated, right, to show that he's still a really good player. I think he has a pretty good chance to stick, especially with TJ Hawkinson likely not ready to start the season. So you think about who they're going to throw the ball to. Josh Oliver, yeah, he caught the ball a little bit last year, but I think he's more a blocking tight end. Johnny Munt can catch the ball a little bit, but maybe more so a blocking tight end. Robert Tonyan can be that pass-catching tight end. Then you think about Aaron Jones. I mean, Aaron, we know about him covering the NFC North, right? All his success with the Green Bay Packers. The Vikings jumped on him instantly the second the Packers let him go. So Aaron, I think, Aaron has a chance to contribute, right? I mean, I think we're also going to see a decent mix of Ty Chandler, but Aaron Jones can still play. Based on what I saw OTAs and minicamp, just watching him move his body, there's still at least one good year there. I'm not sure there's 2 good years there, but I think there's at least 1 good year there. Then I suppose the elephant in the room is the quarterback, right? Sam Darnold, right? So I started on the defensive side, but we better talk about Sam Darnold. So maybe I should have started with Sam Darnold, but we'll end here with Sam Darnold. He's never had talent like this around him. There was a reason why he was the 3rd overall pick in his draft class. And so I would just say with Kevin O'Connell, with Justin Jefferson, with Jordan Addison, with a stud left tackle, Christian Darrisaw, with a stud right tackle, Brian O'Neill, I think Sam Darnold is going to have his best year of his career. Now, what does that ultimately mean with that challenging schedule? Like, I still think we're talking about a 7 to 8 win team. I don't think they're making the playoffs, but hey, a game goes your way instead of the other way. Weird stuff happens, right? We saw that in 2022. It's not like the Vikings were blowing teams out 2 years ago. They end up with 13 wins. So is it possible when I'm talking about 7 or 8 wins that turns into like 10 wins? I suppose, because I do think Sam Darnold is going to play well. I just think it's a really challenging schedule. And I just don't know in year 2 if the defense under Flores can play like it did in year 1. If the defense just takes a little bit of a step backwards. I like Mekhi Blackman. I still have some concerns, though, about the cornerback position. Like Byron Murphy Jr., is he better as a slot corner, not an outside corner? But they'll probably play him outside. Shaq Griffin is another free agent addition. Nice guy, and he feels like this defense really fits his skill set well. But Shaq Griffin did not have a good year last year. And so you're depending on him to be a starting cornerback, but how much does he have left in the tank? And so I still have some question marks about the cornerback position.
Actually, it was a good thing that you let Darnold to the later parts of your answer, because our next question is about quarterbacks.
Yeah.
We want to know your evaluations from DJ McCarthy and Sam Darnold. We interviewed Thor Nystrom a couple weeks ago.
I love Thor. Thor is the biggest JJ McCarthy fan on the planet.
I was going to say just that. No, he called himself the greatest JJ McCarthy fan.
Oh, he's already bought a JJ McCarthy jersey.
Yeah.
He's such a good guy.
Yeah. No,
he is a good guy.
He's great.
Super knowledgeable, too. He is really good at what he does.
Yeah.
And he said that he could see McCarthy pushing for a starting job this year. Then we wanted to ask you if you feel the same. Think McCarthy could be the QB1 in 2024, and if you mentioned a little bit, but just maybe go talk a little more about Sam Darnold maybe having a good year. Maybe we can reach the playoffs. It's a tough division, tough schedule as you mentioned. But if you think we can have a good year with Sam Darnold as our quarterback,
I think it's Sam Darnold starting week 1 at the New York Giants. I think it's Sam Darnold starting week 2, week 3, week 4. I really do. I don't think JJ McCarthy is starting early in the season. My sense, gentlemen, is when they turn to JJ McCarthy, whenever that is, they don't want to have to go back. So once you go, you're all in on JJ McCarthy. They have to be 100% certain that he is ready to go. Now, as minicamp went on earlier this month, McCarthy got better. Early on, he missed some throws. He's working on some footwork stuff. The accuracy wasn't necessarily there, but like you watch the Michigan tape, JJ McCarthy is a stud. I just don't think it's going to happen early in the year. I think this is Sam Darnold's team September. Then we'll go from there. I still think it's his team in October. November, maybe. Like, I'll just tell you this much. I don't have the answer, but if you told me right now that you know that Sam Darnold is going to start 17 games this year for the Vikings, I'd be like, okay, I can buy what you're telling me. Like, I understand it. I get it. That we may not see JJ McCarthy until 2025. I'm just saying I wouldn't rule out a scenario like that this is Sam Darnold's team for a while this year.
Do you have a few more minutes? We have.
Yeah, I got a few more. Yeah.
Okay. We have.
Okay. Yeah, I can go until about 6:27, 6:28, 6:30, something like that.
Okay.
So if you had to rate Kevin O'Connell's and Kwesi performance so far from 1 to 10, what you would be and why?
Well, I'll tell you, if you'd asked me this question about Kwesi in January, I would have said C minus, C plus, somewhere in that ballpark.
Okay.
Now let's fast forward a few months. Doesn't overpay Kirk Cousins. Doesn't overpay Danielle Hunter. Makes the moves he did. Comes up with Dallas Turner on draft night. Like, I'm shifting it like toward a B, B minus, B plus, like not A, no, but like he's gotten better, right? And that's what we should expect. First time general manager. It takes a while to figure out things. He is starting to figure things out. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah deserves credit for what has taken place from early March until now. But he's not an A or A plus, right? Like if you're asking me to rank the top GMs in the sport, you got Howie Roseman in Philly, you got John Lynch in San Francisco. Kwesi is not anywhere near the top of that list, but he has gotten a ton better. Kevin O'Connell can coach. He's good. He's really good. And I'm not one to like dig deep on the X's and O's, breaking down his offensive plays. It's more the way he commands that locker room. How much to a man these guys love playing for him. Yeah, can we nitpick some in-game stuff? Why does he love to pass the ball so much? Can you have a little bit more of a like 50-50 or 55-45 pass to run ratio? Does it have to be 65-35 or 62, whatever it is, 62-38, right? Like, can you have closer to like 55-45? And I don't know if Kevin's ever going to do that, right? Like, to me, if Kevin could pass the ball on every down, he would pass the ball on every down.
Yeah.
But he understands.
Yeah, he would.
You got to find a marriage, the pass and the run game. Are there certain decisions in game, field goal or no field goal, whether to go for it on fourth down or not go for it? Yeah, we can nitpick some stuff, certain play calls. You can wonder why he decided to do what he did. We can nitpick. We can do that with any staff in the NFL. I'm just telling you overall, Kevin O'Connell, to me, is in that A minus range. Like, I get it. Like, to be an A or an A plus, like, to me, you have to hoist the Lombardi trophy. Okay, you got to be a Super Bowl champion. I understand that. I'm not suggesting he's A plus or A, but I think he's like cusp A minus. I think he's right on that cut line, A minus, B plus. I just know this much. If for some reason the Vikings fired Kevin O'Connell today, I guarantee now, in the moment, maybe a team doesn't fire its head coach, they let it play out, but do you know how many teams would be lined up to hire Kevin O'Connell? There would be more than one. I'm not saying there would be 12, right? But I'm just telling you, there would be more than one team that would be begging to hire Kevin O'Connell if for some reason the Vikings let him go, like in the next few weeks or few months.
Yeah. I think of a certain team in Chicago that would love to have Kevin O'Connell. Maybe pair him up with first overall pick in Caleb Williams.
Well, I mean, that's where you wonder, right? Matt Eberflus has a defensive background as the Chicago Bears coach. How will it go this year? Did he hire the right offensive coordinator? Is the right staff in place to fully develop Caleb Williams, to utilize the talent of Keenan Allen, Oduzier, the rookie receiver, DJ Moore? Are the right pieces in place? DeAndre Swift, right? Are the right pieces in place with the right coaches for Chicago to maximize how individually talented all those guys are? That remains to be seen. But sure, if it doesn't go well, like I can see the range of Matt Eberflus being coach of the year or being the first coach fired. Like there is a wide range on Matt Eberflus. But I'm just saying, if he does get fired, we do know this much. The next head coach they hire will be a coach with an offensive background. It won't be another defensive guy. It'll be an offensive guy. So sure, do I think they would love to have Kevin O'Connell? Yeah, I probably believe that.
I think I didn't ask, but I think Brian Flores deserved credit too in Kevin O'Connell's job. I think he makes the Kevin O'Connell's jobs easier.
He does, sure. But Kevin, being a good leader, defers to Brian a lot. It's not like Kevin, from what I understand, it's not like Kevin goes into these defensive meetings throwing out a million different ideas, trying to control the room. He sits back and he listens. He, in many ways, hands the keys to the defense to Brian Flores because Brian Flores, as a former head coach with his defensive background, knows what the heck he is doing. Kevin understands that. Sure, Kevin's going to offer feedback, some tips, more from the offensive standpoint. here's what I think the quarterback is thinking, trying to attack your defense. But it's not like Kevin O'Connell is saying, Brian, you need to do this defensively. You need to do that. This personnel, that personnel. He's deferring a ton to Brian Flores. That to me is a good leader, knowing when you have the right people around you and you then empower those people.
Switching topics just a little bit. Now we were just talking about coaching staff. Let's talk about the NFL International. For the first time, there will be a game here in South America, and it's in Brazil. Let's
Eagles
go.
Packers.
Yeah, actually, it was so close to being Eagles Vikings.
Yeah.
I think everyone here will just lose our minds. I don't know what I would do to see the Vikings play.
Although I have
Brazil.
a feeling the way the Packers fan base follows its team, there have to be enough pretty happy people in Brazil about the Packers coming.
I think there were the number 1 or number 2 fan base here in Brazil. They're huge. Sadly, they're huge. But just what are your opinions on the game being played here in Brazil and the leagues attempt to be more of an international brand? Spain's going to host a game next year. We have games in Germany, England, Mexico is going back into the mix when Estádio Aztecas repairs are done. So what are your opinions on the game being more, and the NFL being more of an international brand than just focus on the US?
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, the way the sport is growing, and gambling has a lot to do with that, right? Fantasy football or just any number of bets you can now easily execute on your phone, right? Betting has a lot to do with it, but the NFL is the number 1 sport in the world, I believe. Now, hey, there might be enough evidence to say, no, it's soccer, right? It's not American football. It's football, right? That still, Europe and Brazil and Argentina and a lot of countries, right? It's football. It's not American football. But I'm just starting to think like, and hey, a lot of people might say it's basketball, right? Because basketball is a big deal in China. You think about how big China is, right? And that part of the world, right? Japan as well. So I understand if there's evidence, because this is all top of my head. So there might be evidence to say, whoa, what the heck are you talking about? It's basketball or football, not American football. But it seems like American football is growing and growing and growing. So to me, it makes sense. Brazil, like I wonder in the next 5 to 10 years, is there a team that resides in Mexico City? Like I've thought about that there will be a team that's in Mexico City. Is it possible in 5 to 10 years there's a team that's in London? Like I wouldn't necessarily dismiss that. And I would think now with the game coming to Brazil, when we think about 2025, 2026, 2027, like I would think you guys would know the landscape of South America way better than I, but like I would think Argentina, right? Is there a game that goes to Buenos Aires, right? And any number of other possibilities where an international game can take place. But it's a credit. I mean, Roger Goodell, the commissioner, what they do in New York at the NFL front office, like they're no dummies. They know exactly what they're doing. And I have a feeling this Eagles-Packers game is going to be a huge success, A+ success.
Yeah, it will. No, green shirts aside, I don't know if I think you probably heard a couple of things about this, but it will be a great game.
Yeah, well, let's hope it's a great game.
We know how to host partner
teams, but I just think the build up to the game, you know, the excitement in the stadium, the pageantry, just all the excitement. I think that will be executed at a very, very high level.
So, last question. What do you know about Brazil? Might be a word, a food, or a city. I don't know. We can, if you don't know, we can teach you something.
Well, I'm all ears, right? Because I'm not going to claim to be any sort of expert on Brazil. I know about the rich football, soccer history in Brazil, right? So that's the first thing I think about, you know, the World Cup and all the success that Brazil has had on that international stage, right? But I also think about, you know, basketball is pretty popular in Brazil. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but basketball is pretty darn popular. And so, you know, I think about that. I don't know a whole lot about the cuisine. I've never visited South America. Now,
Damn,
a
he's the
family
best.
friend
It's the best.
is
Yeah.
from
He's the
Bogota,
best.
Colombia. And so I've heard a lot about Colombia and, just, when he got adopted and came here to America. And so, I've heard a lot of his stories, right? But I don't know a ton. I really don't about South America. So I'm all ears. You guys can educate me.
Oh, okay. I will give you the first tip. Are you a big fan of barbecues?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think
Yeah.
there are a couple in the US. Don't know if there are some in the Minneapolis region, but try a Brazilian churrascaria.
Yes.
It's our
Yes, a
version of
Brazilian
barbecue.
steakhouse. Yes.
You
Okay.
you will regret just a bit. It's delicious. I think if you eat that, you will never want to try a American barbecue again. It just
Fair. And what about the
it's
beaches?
another level. It's another level.
Oh, yeah. No. I'm all about the cuisine, so I appreciate that. What about the beaches? Copacabana?
Oh,
Beautiful.
Yeah.
beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The-
Cristo
in the-
Redentor.
our northeast has just some, I think maybe one of the prettiest beaches in the world. In
Yeah.
Bahia, Maceió.
Santa Catarina.
I love it. I'm gonna have to get down there. Plus, how big is Brazil? Like Brazil
Oh,
is
big.
enormous, isn't it? Like
yeah. Yeah.
here in the
It's-
United States, the biggest state is, well, it might be Alaska by size, by population, it's probably California. But like some of the bigger states in the continental United States, Texas, California. But like Brazil, is Brazil bigger than Texas?
Yeah, way bigger.
Yeah.
Brazil, I think, is
Yeah.
the 5th largest country in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, it just takes up a lot of
Yeah.
land.
Yeah, and the 6th largest, I guess, in population
Yeah.
numbers. It's kind of crazy because São Paulo it's bigger and more populated than New York.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
I think we're up to 16, maybe 17 million people here in São Paulo.
Okay, and that's where you're based in São Paulo?
Yeah, I'm from São Paulo.
Got it. Yeah,
Mais
I
uma
mean,
coisa, Henrique.
I like
Ah,
to travel. I've been many places. I was in the Dominican Republic for the first time in March. So I like to get out and about when the schedule allows. My wife and I, like to hop on an airplane when we can, bring the kids. I mean, to me, it's important that they understand that there's a ton of different cultures. And, we don't live in this bubble here in Minneapolis, right? You need to escape. You need to learn about all sorts of different cultures and, religions and just the way the world is, right? And how we all can get along, even though in this
Yeah.
moment it might seem really hard, right? With everything going on in this world, whether it's in the Middle East, whether it's in Ukraine, Russia, here in the United States, we have a big election coming up in November. How will that impact our country, right? There's a lot of people on edge, a lot of questions being asked. But to me, it's important that my boys understand, like, we're one big melting pot, right? And we all should be able to get along. Let's figure out how to get along.
I think that's a beautiful way to end the interview.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
You
it.
want to say something else, Shoots?
Huh?
You want to say something else?
No, I just really happy. I hope you enjoy it too, and that you can come back again in the future. And that's it, man. So
Happy to do it. I'm glad you guys invited me. You guys know how to track me down via email. Happy to do it. Let's do it again in the heart of training camp. Maybe like mid-August after a
Okay.
couple weeks of training camp. Happy to come back on.
Let's do it.
let's do it.
And
Man.
if you ever come to São Paulo alone with your wife, with your family, just shoot me a message, and I'll be more than happy to show you a couple of places here.
That would be fantastic. Yeah, I mean, we'll sit down at some point. I think at some point, I know some friends that do this. You literally throw like a bunch of countries in a hat and you just draw one randomly and you say, okay, that's where we're visiting sometime in the next year. So I can promise you Brazil would be in that hat. A lot of countries in South America. I think Argentina absolutely would be in that hat. Heck, any number of countries, maybe not Colombia, based on what my friend has told me. I just don't know. That makes
That's
a lot of
probably
sense
that.
in this moment, right? There's enough stuff that's going on in Colombia, so I don't know how
Yeah.
safe Colombia is, but yeah, Brazil, Argentina. Heck, for me, I would absolutely have Japan. I've not been to Germany, so I'd love to put that in the hat. Italy, Iceland. Like, I've heard a lot of good things about Iceland, right? So there would be any number. Ireland, that's actually one I'm not even going to put in the hat. Like, Ireland, sometime in the next couple of years, I need to get to Ireland. And if we're in Ireland, probably hit up London as well. You know, that region of the world. But yeah, I mean, I can promise you we'll do it at some point. Countries in a hat. And if we pull out Brazil, I'll track you down.
Okay, that would be awesome. Really awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You got it, gentlemen. Take it easy.
You too.
You got it.